Okay, hi everyone. I'm Serena, I'm an interactions designer, and I work with the Chrome security and Chrome permissions teams. Today, I'm going to talk to you about prompt dialogues, or more specifically, how we need to start thinking beyond them when it comes to understanding people's intention and their consent. But first, we'll start from the basics. What even is a permission prompt, and what are they for? So you may remember this thing called the World Wide Web. At first, the web was for documents. We passed around text, images, but as time went on, we added more capabilities, right? So location, camera, microphone, notifications. And as we extend the capability of the web, we necessarily expand the attack surface. And if you're not expecting that a website can use your camera or location, this becomes a problem, right? Enter the humble permission prompt. This prompt is to make sure that you actually intend to use what the website wants to use. So permissions are for detecting user intent. Like, do you want the website to use this new thing? Do you trust this website with this new power? And across all of the browsers, these prompts are implemented in pretty much the same way. So I'm sure you've seen at least one of these. Or I don't know, maybe you've never attempted to read an article online. But for those of you who have seen one of these, I have a question for you. Did you have a nice experience? Amazing. So as websites get more and more powerful and they start using new things, we can quickly start to overload people with prompts. And I'd go as far as to say that the current way we handle permissions does not scale. Let me explain here. Okay, so here's my list of gripes. First, prompts, they're interruptive, almost by definition. The current permission model is defined in this developer push approach. So the timing is wholly controlled by the website. And practically, that means websites will ask you immediately as soon as you land. And even if they don't ask immediately, oftentimes you don't have enough context to make a good decision. It might be unexpected. Not so great. Second is prompts can be overwhelming and repetitive. I think it's easy for us to all assume, as people who think about privacy and consent and prompts, it's easier for us to think we're the only prompt, but we're not the only prompt. In reality, people are getting bombarded by pop-ups every day. This, along with, hang on. Okay, hang on. Sorry. Sorry. This, along with the fact that the web is growing and what it can do, means even more prompts, right? So all these interruptions and repetitions create this environment where people, they rely on these short-term cues and simple heuristics to make decisions. Behavioral economics called this satisfying, but I call it the... Oh my gosh, okay, sorry. Panic and click anything to make the prompt go away. Okay. Whew. Third, the risks are hard to explain, especially for newer capabilities and APIs. And sometimes the risks are so technical and specific that it's impossible to explain in the split second people are expected to make a decision. Here's an example, Fonts API. This is an API that lets websites access your font files on your local computer. You think that they can already do this. A lot of people think this. But this is a different kind of access, it's accessing the vector stuff. This is gated behind a permission prompt. Why? As it turns out, the risk has nothing to do with that access of the file itself. The risk is in the fact that if you install custom fonts on your computer, the list of fonts that you have is quite unique, which makes you identifiable, which makes you fingerprintable. Try explaining that to someone in the middle of making a meme. Not going to work. So we have some problems to deal with. On the Chrome team, we tried a variety of things. To mitigate interruptiveness, we designed this smaller, less intrusive UI. So when a website requests for permissions, instead of displaying a full pop-up bubble, if they want to grant the permission, we display this like tiny little chip. And if they want to, they can click on this and grant as usual. Very cute, very small, very out of the way. Problem is we made it too easy to ignore. Grant rates dropped from an average of about 20% to 1%. We expected a drop, but not this much. This meant that there were people who probably wanted to allow the permission, but couldn't see the chip. So this didn't make it out of experiments. What happened here is that by trying to decrease the interruption, with that we also decreased awareness that the website needed a permission. To mitigate the hard-to-explain risks, we tried to limit their blast radius, so like make the allow decision less risky. To do this, we created two features. First is automatic permission revocation. So if you've granted a permission but haven't visited in 2 months, we will automatically revoke that permission. So next time you visit, the website will have to ask again. It can't just like randomly start using it. This makes sure that decisions on websites that you infrequently touch don't stick around. The second thing we did is one-time grants. This lowers the stakes for an allow decision and let people like try and see and get familiar with the website. So the one-time grant lasts only as long as the tab is around, and then after that, the website has to ask for permission again. Both of these are currently going out stable, so that's very exciting. But you might notice that the downside is that by giving people more granular control, we necessarily have to show them more prompts. We have to interrupt them more. And remember, more repetition means, more panic and click anything. Okay, so too many prompts. To mitigate this, we brought back this little chip UI with a twist this time. We only show this for some prompts, only the ones that people don't want. To do this, we looked at some simple heuristics, like giving people a way to just opt into this by themselves, so they never see prompts, they just see this little chip. We also have a simple heuristic where, like, if someone denies a notification prompt 3 times in a row, we assume you probably don't want it, so we start showing you this little chip. We also do things like look at telemetry from sites to see which are the worst offenders. So sites that we see have the highest notification volume, meaning they're like sending out a lot of spam, and the lowest grant rates. We have a list of those, take the 10% of the worst offenders, and then anytime they prompt for notifications, we don't show the prompt, we show them this little chip instead. We can even go further. So we built this thing also called the Chrome Permission Suggestion Service, which is this on-device model that predicts the likelihood of someone granting something. And if we're super, super confident that they don't want to allow it, then we show this UI. This performed really well. Allow rates remained stable while ignore rates went up, which is great. And this is now unstable, so that's great. But of course, we're hiding prompts again. So like, again, the seesaw is coming back a little. Even in this case, I mean, it's a bit better because we're only hiding the prompts that we know people don't want, but still we're hiding prompts. So it feels like we're stuck in this like balancing act. It feels like we're optimizing in the margins even. Why does it feel like we're hitting a ceiling? What's the deeper problem here is the next question. And to answer this, I want to introduce you this classic permission flowchart from Adriana Porterfeld. This is a guide on which permission mechanism to use, depending on the capability. And this confirmation dialog is the permission prompt we've been talking about. If we backtrack to how we got to the confirmation dialog, what do we see? The user didn't initiate the request. The user can't alter the action. The user has to approve now or it won't work. Why is the user only brought in at the end? Here's another example. When a website wants to access an API, the canonical way to do this is just to try access it. And then the browser will check if the permission is there or not. And if the permission isn't there, then we show a prompt. At no point before this does the user actually need to be involved. How we currently design software to handle permissions is what I call this developer push model. The software pushes the prompt onto the user, regardless of whether the user is expecting it, whether they have enough context to make a good decision. In this diagram, we've skipped straight through to the confirmation, after a whole bunch of other decisions, like the scope and the nature of the capability, after those decisions have already been made. If we have to confirm something, it means we didn't get enough information earlier on. So what if we designed earlier on? What if we made actions more revertible? We better contain these risks. What if we let people initiate the usage and let them alter things? I know this is super UX designer of me to say, but if the whole purpose of permissions is to get the user's intent, maybe we should consult with users earlier on. Prompts are just one tool in our toolkit. By rethinking how we design capabilities themselves, we can design intent moments directly into the natural flow of using that capability itself. I'm going to speed run through 5 concepts for how we might expand this toolkit. First, user selection. We can make it abundantly apparent what is going on to people by getting them to actively choose the scope of what they're giving permission for. And this is a very kind of natural thing that people already do. In the same vein, we can piggyback off of known concepts and familiar UI, like the operating system's own native file picker, just to make it clear to people what's happening. So in this file upload example, it's obvious that you're giving a file to the website because people interact with files in this UI all the time. They already know what it is. You don't have to explain it to them. When the risks do become so technical and difficult to explain, like fingerprinting, then it's up to us to re-examine what's really needed to make a feature work. In the fonts example, the browser could hide significant amounts of fingerprinting information by building the font picker UI instead of handing that task off to the website. Then the website can't access the fingerprintable list of fonts, only the ones that the user directly chooses. Another option is giving people direct controls. So instead of a website asking for permission, just let people toggle things on and off. Remember, user pull. For example, early discussions of the Windows Overlay API proposed popping up a permission prompt so that the website can decide to hide this title bar in PWAs. But then we were if the user has to do something anyway, why not just give people the control? Another idea could be instead of websites prompting people for notifications, we just let them direct people to where the control is and let them turn it on by themselves if they want it. The upside to providing direct controls instead of prompting is that by the very act of turning something on, you learn how to turn it off. Speaking of user pull, we can offer triggers and permission moments directly embedded into the web page itself. So instead of the website deciding when to use a capability, we can encourage developers to think about building context around the permission moment and give them the tools to do so. So this is something that the Chrome team are currently prototyping, which is this HTML element that websites can use to can embed in their page, and people can use this to pull on the capabilities that they want when they choose and when they're actually ready for it. This idea is super early days and is actually why I'm here. So if you have any thoughts on this, feedback, please come find me afterwards. I would love to know what you think. All right, I promise I will stop talking soon. We covered a lot of content. We covered that permissions are for detecting user intent. Prompts don't scale for a variety of reasons. Sometimes the solutions seesaw between interruptions and ignorance. And, oh gosh. Oh my gosh. Where did... Okay, we're back. To kind of break the ceiling of optimizing in the margins, we need to look earlier on in this user interaction flow. And we can do this with the 5 concepts. But mostly as a general principle, I'd love to see us as an industry move away from this developer push model onto a user pull one. And by putting the end user first, we can design permission moments directly into the natural flow of using something, rather having it be interruptive. This allows us to enable a more powerful web without sacrificing usability, security, or privacy. And by adding these new tools in our toolkit, we can take some of the pressure off this humble permission prompt. Okay, thank you all so much for your time.